Okay, let's talk about spousal benefits. And again, first I'm going to do the part that hasn't changed, then I'm going to do the change, then I'm going to do the transition period. So the part that hasn't changed is your basic spousal benefit. So PIA, when it says John's PIA, PIA is primary insurance amount, which is the amount that he would be entitled to at age 66. All right, so let's assume that John is 66, and let's assume his wife Jane is 66, and his primary insurance amount is $2,000 based on his earnings record. And let's also assume that Jane worked, but she didn't work as many years, and she didn't work for as high a salary, and her primary insurance amount is $800. All right, and let's assume that under existing law, and potentially grandfathered in the new law, John applies for Social Security. We'll talk about suspending later, but he either applies and suspends, or he just applies. Jane would be entitled to a spousal benefit that would end up being 1/2 of his benefit when he was 66 years old. All right, so she could get $1,000 a month, even though on her record it would be $800 a month. All right, and in addition, her record, let's say she never worked, and her primary insurance amount is 0, she could still get $1,000 a month. Okay? All right, so that is, let's call it your basic spousal benefit, which has not changed. All right, now, in order for that to happen, the primary worker, in this case John, he had to have filed for benefits. He couldn't, when he was at age 66, he couldn't just sit on his butt and do nothing, and then his wife files for a spousal benefit. He would actually have to file for a spousal benefit. All right, she, his wife, and by the way, I'm using the old sexist paradigm where the husband was the primary earner. And I apologize for that, but it's just easier to communicate. Let's assume that he was 66. She could actually file for a spousal benefit at age 62, but if she did that, she would have to suffer what's called an actuarial reduction, so she wouldn't be able to get 50%. She might get only 35%, and as you'll see, there's some other problems with her filing early. This is strategy now, and it might change a little bit, but at least under the existing and old law, in almost all cases, I wanted the primary insurance worker or the person with a stronger Social Security record to work until age 70, and we'll see why. All right, but anyway, the spousal benefits are based on the primary worker's primary insurance amount, which is the amount that he would be receiving at 66. Okay, now the other thing is divorce. Let's say you were in a 10-year marriage, and the husband, again using the sexist paradigm, the husband was the primary earner. Let's say he had a big earnings record and the spouse did not. And let's say you were married for 10 years or longer, all right? You would then still be able to file for a spousal benefit even though you are divorced, okay? And you can do that if you are unmarried and you're at least 62 years old. But it gets more fun than that. You can have more than one ex-spouse collecting on one spouse's record. So let's say you were 30 years old, you had a good job, good earnings record, and you got married. Actually, you could get married at 20, all right? The marriage lasts 10 years, all right? Doesn't work, get divorced, marry somebody else. And that one lasts 10 years. So now we're from 20 to 30 for the first one, 30 to 40 for the next one. Then You have to keep paying for these divorces, so you're still working, but you marry somebody else, and that goes from 40 to 50. Then you marry somebody else, and that goes from 50 to 60. Then you divorce that person, and you marry somebody else, and that one goes from 60 to 70. All right, so what do we have? 5 marriages there? All right, now, all 5, assuming they didn't get remarried, all 5 of your ex-spouses can all collect a spousal benefit on the one person who is still working. Is this a great country or what? All right, now we're going to find out, coming up is what's going to be the change in that area. But at least the existing law is you didn't even have to tell your ex-spouse that you were collecting on them. And your ex-spouse couldn't do anything to stop you. All right? So we had some very interesting strategies. And here was one of the nice strategies, and this is kind of a precursor to the apply and suspend. Let's say that because you were divorced, you had to go back to work and you had your own earnings record. All right? But you were able to take advantage of a spousal benefit from your ex-husband. All right? And by the way, this is also true even if you weren't divorced. Yeah, that's right. Well, let's just stay with divorce for a moment. You'll still get those raises that I talked about earlier from 62 to age 70, notwithstanding the fact that you're collecting money from your ex-spouse. So you're still getting your raises, but you're also getting a check. All right? We're going to see what the change of the law is. But divorce planning for Social Security, a lot of people don't even know that. And by the way, you can't make it up. Like you can't discover, oh geez, for the last 3 years I could have been collecting Social Security from my spouse. I'm going to ask for those 3 years back. You can't do that. Okay? All right, well here's another thing. When you're born becomes really important. Now we're going to talk about, still existing law. If you're born before December 31st, 1953, which means you'll be 62 or older by the end of 2015, you will be allowed to file a restricted application. We'll talk about what that is. And it doesn't matter if the primary worker filed or whether he didn't. All right? If the divorce has occurred more than 2 years earlier. That'll become hopefully a little bit more clear when I keep going. So first thing to know is there's some interesting rules for divorce, and there's changes in the divorce area.